on Turkey Day. It just, I don't know. Does that feel? That feels weird. I don't love that, but I will take the Saints. Let's go to some games that have not been played yet. Packers at the Giants. The Giants stink. They are awful. Their defense is hideous. Pat Shurmur, good offensive coordinator, terrible head coach. Could have seen this coming a mile away. I said at the moment they hired him, ugh, gross. The Packers, yeah, they got their ass kicked by the 49ers. This is your classic bounce-back game. You know, I think Devontae Adams, I play some daily fantasy. I love picking daily fantasy players against teams like the Giants, the Buccaneers, the Cardinals. There are certain teams in this league where guys go off. Devontae Adams didn't do anything against the 49ers. I like him to bounce back. Same with Aaron Rodgers. I think he had 20 completions and 105 yards. That's like a stat line you'd see with Danny Dimes, not Aaron Rodgers. So I'd expect a nice 300-yard game. Now, the weather probably could be crappy, but still, I mean, I would expect Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to kick the crap out of the Giants. I like them -7 in this game. Redskins at the Panthers. This is another game that the Panthers are not going to make the playoffs, but I think they've thoroughly, over the course of the season, established themselves as a really solid team. And maybe if the season starts over, that they would, and had Kyle Allen from the beginning when they dropped those games with Cam Newton. Because in fairness to Cam Newton, he just was 50%. He had no shot. Maybe they make the playoffs. Or maybe it's closer. Maybe they're in the mix. Haskins stinks. He's, every time I watch him, a slow breather, not a quick decision maker. It's unfair to, I'm not making some blanket opinion he'll never be good, but right now he's awful. Looks like a practice squad guy. In way over his head. Now you can say, yeah, he's a rookie, but I saw Gardner Minshew didn't, pee right down his pants. He at least could function, and Dwayne really can't right now. Now he's had a coaching change midseason. The franchise is a joke. But I like the Panthers. Now, -10, that's a lot of points, but still, I like the Panthers big. Niners at the Ravens, probably the best game of the day. The Ravens coming off a short week, right? They probably got home at 8 in the morning. Lamar Jackson is riding this wave of dominance, unlike something we've seen in a long time. The Niners have been the best team start to finish in the league. This is kind of a tough matchup for them. Some running quarterbacks, Kyler and Russell, have given them trouble. The pocket quarterbacks, they've dominated. It's the running quarterbacks that have hurt them a little bit. Now, Dee Ford, as of recording this, Kyle Shanahan thought it was a chance that Dee Ford plays, which a guy like that would help against Lamar. Niners getting 6 points. That seems like a lot because the Niners can run the ball. They can control the clock. It's going to be terrible weather. But it's not a grass field, so it's not going to be slipping and sliding in the sense of the Mud Bowl, like when the Niners played the Redskins. I think you'd have to pick the Ravens, and I'm a little biased here because I watch the Niners so closely, but the game's in Baltimore, tough trip, 10 a.m. kickoff for a West Coast team. The stats, we've heard it for years. It's just a tough situation, especially late in the season. But I do like the Niners +6. That number has been going up and up and up. I don't know. I mean, I think the Niners, it's not like the Ravens are dramatically better than the Niners. They played on a neutral field. On a normal week, the game would probably be like a 1 or 2 point line at most. So, I like the Niners to cover, probably the Ravens to win. Titans at the Colts. This is a pretty good game, too. The Titans, listen, since Ryan Tannehill has been the starting quarterback, he's changed the franchise. Marcus Mariota couldn't complete wide receiver screens. Ryan Tannehill's running over people at the goal line. Derrick Henry, who's going to be a free agent. I was reading some stuff on Twitter this morning. Looks like the Titans might franchise him because if he were to hit the open market, someone would pay him. He is a stud. I went to Titans OTAs, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, 2018, the spring. He is so big. He looks like a defensive lineman, and he can really run. He can really play. When he gets going, he changes it for them because the Titans' defense is solid. Then you got the Colts who – listen, depending on what game you watch Jacoby, you can go, God, he's pretty solid. Or, leaves us something to be desired. Now, he did hurt his knee. T.Y. has been banged up this season. Eric Ebron hasn't quite been the same, but the Colts are well coached. This is a great game. I probably would pick the Titans +2.5, but to me, this is a coin flip game. And whoever wins this is a huge swing game for the playoffs. This is must win for both teams. This is an important game for not just the AFC South, but the AFC wild card. Whoever wins this game depending on what happens to the Houston Patriot game, is got a chance to, kind of solidify themselves as a 6 seed. Because if the Titans win this game, then they play the Raiders next week. They could be in the driver's seat for that 6 seed. And they still play the Texans twice, so they wouldn't be dead to win the division. And then it would be pretty clear that the Titans and Texans are going to make the playoffs. Eagles at Miami. This has to be a get-right game for Carson Wentz. I talked about him earlier in the week. He hasn't been playing very well. Miami's one of those weird bad teams because they play so damn hard. In Philly, it feels like the building's burning down just because they had Super Bowl hopes, and now their playoff lives are hanging on by a shoestring, even though I don't even view them as a playoff team, even though mathematically they're right in it because they're right at, again, Dallas. I'm assuming they win. We're still one game behind them. But, hell, the Bills could beat them. So I like the Eagles in this game. Raiders at Kansas City. Welcome to reality, Oakland. You're not very good. Your defense is listen, the Bengals might be a worse defense. I'd even say they're not because they got better players. The Raiders' defense is atrocious. I like Kansas City to destroy the Raiders. I think the Raiders, who just got their ass kicked by the Jets, are going to get their ass kicked by the Chiefs. And then they play the Titans next week at home. They lose that game, like playoff talk. Like Jim Mora Sr. once said, playoffs? Like, shut up. Let's stop talking about the playoffs for the Raiders. Derek Carr is atrocious in the cold weather. Jack Del Rio's been tweeting about it. I think he's 0-4 in games under 45 degrees. Him and Jared Goff, there are no two quarterbacks I feel more comfortable making a substantial wager when they play in cold weather. They shrivel. They can't do it for whatever reason. So I like Kansas City to win big, and then they're 8-4, and they're kind of back in the driver's seat. They got to get their kind of mind right down the home stretch to get the seeding. Tampa at Jacksonville. Tampa's been a bizarre team all year because Jameis turns the ball over at historic rates, but he also throws a lot of touchdowns. And between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and my guy Rojo at USC, he's now kind of running the ball well. They do have an explosive offense, but their defense stinks.
5G is changing business. It will usher in a new era of connectivity that promises to revolutionize the way we work. But it's pointless if 5G doesn't reach the people and places that need it. The reality is that not all 5G is being created equal. And your industry, whether it's agriculture, transportation, energy, retail, or something else, isn't limited to a dense urban core. T-Mobile has invested nearly $30 billion to build the only nationwide 5G network. T-Mobile's 5G network reaches farther than just high-density neighborhoods. It goes into the suburban and rural communities where businesses actually operate. Bottom line, if you haven't looked at T-Mobile for Business lately, it's time. Go to T-MobileForBusiness.com to learn more. A 5G-capable device is required, and coverage isn't available in some areas. Some uses may require a certain plan or feature. See T-Mobile.com for more details.
Jacksonville, who caught a little Gardner magic earlier in the season, has come back to earth. But I don't even. This game is a pick'em in Vegas, coin flip game. I'd probably lean Tampa, just because Jacksonville's defense has been really the last couple years since they played in the AFC Championship game has been a shell of itself. Now they trade Jalen Ramsey. Calais is getting older. It's just Miles Jack isn't quite as good as he once was. It's understandable, but they should not be. I mean, when I look up and it's 28-3 or whatever against the Titans at the end of the half, you're like, what is going on? They're kind of gutless this year. It's kind of sad because they do have a lot of talent. I guess I would lean Tampa in this game. Jets at the Bengals. Bengals are losing this. Sam Darnold's getting hot. The Jets are playing well. There was a story that after the game, I can't believe the New York Post reported this, that Sam Darnold went out and got drunk. Yeah, and was kissing a chick. Remember when everyone's like, Middlekauff, you're being so mean about his mono. We don't know he kissed a girl. Again, I'm pro making out. I'm pro getting drunk after wins. I'm pro partying if you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. I would too. So it wasn't a story to me. It was kind of funny. But I'm a big Sam Darnold guy. I'm glad that he's starting to kind of get his mojo back. And, God, he's looked really good the last couple weeks. He's a very talented player. He went number 3 in the draft for a reason. He has all the goods to be a franchise quarterback. Now it's on the Jets to do a good job building around him, for him to just keep figuring out the game mentally so he doesn't get in these positions where he sees ghosts, but he's only 22 years old. To me, this guy's the limit. Rams at Arizona. If the Rams can't win this game, like it's an indictment not just on the season but big picture. Like they might be screwed. Like how are they going to add offensive linemen? They're not going to have any free agency money because they're paying 5 guys 60% of the cap. Then you look at the draft picks. They don't have any first-round picks coming up. They've gone to this. If it was an NBA team, they'd be fine. But in the NFL, you need more than 3 or 4 players. And one big issue for them is if you can't block for Jared Goff, you're screwed. He's like a 26-year-old Eli Manning. He can't move. So he's not athletic enough to avoid the rush. And their offensive line is a joke. I mean, they can't block anybody. And Whitworth, who was their best player a couple years ago, he just got old. He was old. He was kind of defying father time for a minute. And I really don't know what they do. They got Jared Goff, who they're paying $110 million, who can't function behind a bad offensive line, and they don't have good offensive line. They got Todd Gurley, who they're paying a boatload of money, who's a shell of himself. They got Brandon Cooks, who they overpaid / has concussion issues, so he can't really produce. The only guy really living up to the hype, they got 2 of them, Jalen and Aaron Donald, are good players. They're worth big money. The other 3 guys are not. So you can't invest your money in the wrong players in the NFL, or you will lose. Browns at the Steelers. I don't really know what to make of this game. The Browns should win, right? Their offense is kind of clicking these last couple games. Odell Jarvis just had, 3 touchdowns last week. Nick Chubb has been good all season. Kareem Hunt looks awesome since he's been back. Now, I just never trust Freddie Kitchens in pressure spots. He did beat this team 2 weeks ago, but the elephant in the room is going to be Myles Garrett at this game. I think I saw something on Twitter. They're not going to allow Myles Garrett jerseys into the wherever the hell the Steelers play. What's it called? Heinz Field. But do I feel good about putting money on Duck Hodges? The Steelers are getting 2.5 at home. I kind of like the Browns the more I think about it. But, I do have faith in Mike Tomlin in some of these spots. This is a tough game. I'm interested to watch how this bad boy plays out. Pats at Houston. The more I've thought about this game this week is Houston is so dependent on their wide receivers, Hopkins and Fuller. When those 2 guys eat, they win. If those 2 guys don't produce, they're screwed. Well, what does New England do better than anyone? They cover. Stephon Gilmore has had one of the great 3-year stretches of any corner ever. He's underpaid, and he was at the time the highest paid corner in the league. I don't like the matchup for Houston. Right? I just do not like the matchup for Houston. They can really cover, and the Texans don't really do anything else well besides throw the ball. I know Belichick makes them sound like they're the 94 49ers because I was watching some of his press conference this morning, but that's just not the case. They're like a 3-man team. And you can say Romeo does a great job all you want, but I think I'll take Josh McDaniels, Tom Brady, and just their ability to figure it out. The corners for Texans right now are bad. I mean, Garyon Conley's not very good. They don't really have much of a pass rush with this Texan squad. I mean, J.J. Watt's out for the year. So I like the Pats in this game pretty handily. And if Houston loses, and depending on what happens in this Titans-Colts game, either way, someone's got to win that game. The AFC South just becomes interesting again. Coming down the home stretch here, baby. Okay, let's dive into the Middlekauff mailbag. It's where I answer you guys' questions. And at John Middlekauff, fire into the DMs. Could this be the best defensive line ever? Speaking of the 49ers. Second off, you were wrong on Bosa. Like when I watch football on Sunday, that dude jumps off the screen. He's unstoppable, and he might be the defensive player of the year. Why did you not like them? Let me down a lot of tape at Ohio State. Second, would love to know as a scout. We got to work on our grammar a little bit, but I appreciate the effort. Yeah, I mean, I thought Nick, his athletic ability was just a little limited. Like when I see the Myles Garretts, the Khalil Macks, even the Clownies, they were elite athletes, but it was either a coach in the league or it might have been Daniel Jeremiah when I was texting, during the draft process. They just said, I think it was a coach actually. He said, you guys are just born to do it. So if you worry so much about 40 times and how high they jump, don't worry about that crap. And sometimes I got that in me. I got a little Al Davis in me. And it doesn't matter. The guy was born to dominate. And yeah, it was just I was too critically